Welcome Niobrara High School. I'm Mrs. Colmus and I teach biology here at Pierce High School, and we would love to share with you our cell. The assignment for our class was to make an analogy of all the cell parts. So this whole high school is our living organism, multicellular, and each classroom is a cell. And so my biology classroom became a 3D cell where they had to build these parts and make an analogy of it. I'm going to start this off with the cell wall. Okay, so come on over. Here's my door, and this outside represents the cell wall. A cell wall is something that's found only in plant cells, some bacteria, and it gives shape and support to the cell, gives it good structure. So just like this outside wall here is solid and gives structure and support to the cell, that's what a cell wall does. So here is our labeled cell wall. It's the very outside of that cell, which is my room. And you can see by the words written on it, it's made of a substance called cellulose. Okay? Now the cell wall's for shape and support, but it doesn't care what gets in. So these little holes that you see here are pores. So things can freely go in and out of the cell wall. Okay? So that's why it has the pores for things to go in, otherwise it's for shape and support. Now, just inside of the cell wall is going to be the cell membrane, which I will let the next group explain to you shortly.
This is the cell membrane, and its function is to help maintain the shape of the cell and to keep what the cell needs in and to keep what it doesn't need in out.
It's made of a phospholipid bilayer, these lipids on the outside, and each lipid has two protein tails that face towards each other. And this protein channel is what allows everything in and out. It's how everything gets through the cell membrane.
And for our analogy, the cell membrane is like a door with a lock. It lets certain people in and keep other people out. Much like a cell membrane lets certain things into the cell and keeps other things out.
Nucleus, and it directs the entire cell.
This is the nucleolus. There may be more than one nucleoli in every nucleus.
This stuffing is to represent the chromatin, which is the DNA, and there's also nucleoplasm inside the nucleus. These are the pores, and they let things in and out of the nucleus. The blue is the nuclear envelope, which is the double membrane.
And the nucleus is like a principal because it runs everything.
Okay, this is our mitochondria, and it's shaped like a hot dog. And its function is to produce energy for the cell through cellular respiration.
This is the outer membrane, and this is the inner membrane that is folded, and it's called a cristae. And the folds give it more surface area, which means that there's more space for reactions to occur.
Okay, and then inside here, these are DNA strands, and these are ribosomes. Okay, our analogy is mitochondria is like a breaker box because it supplies, just like a breaker box supplies power to the classrooms and school, the mitochondria provides power to the cell.
Ribosome's basic function is to make proteins for the cell. They either free float in the cell or they are attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the ribosomes work together in a process called protein synthesis.
Protein synthesis is when the ribosomes take in amino acids, and using the strands of RNA that go through the ribosome, it creates proteins for the rest of the cell. These are dot-like structures that float around in the cytoplasm, but here's one that's very magnified.
The ribosome is made up of two units, the larger subunit, which is red here, and the smaller subunit, which is blue. And then the rubber band right here represents the RNA, which goes through the ribosome.
Our analogy, we compared it to a teacher because the ribosome creates proteins for the rest of the cell, just like a teacher produces learning for all of the students.
This is the endoplasmic reticulum. There's two types, the rough and the smooth. The rough has ribosomes and the smooth doesn't because it doesn't have ribosomes.
The function of the endoplasmic reticulum is to transport proteins throughout the cell, and our analogy was the endoplasmic reticulum is like a hallway because it transports students like the endoplasmic reticulum transports proteins.
This is the Golgi body, and it's made up of folded membranes and vesicles.
The main function of the Golgi body is to take in sugar, proteins, water, and make a new compound out of it, and then those get sent out through the vesicles.
Our analogy for the Golgi body is like a coffee machine because it takes in water and coffee beans and makes it into the coffee and sends it into the coffee pot, which then distributes it. So, and then the Golgi body takes in the proteins and makes it into the new substance and sends it throughout the cell by breaking it off to the vesicle.
This is our organelle, the lysosome. It digests food, bacteria, and damaged organelles throughout the cell. And if there's no more food in the cell, it'll start digesting the organelles in the cell.
On the inside, there's an enzyme mixture, and these balls in here, they are the enzymes. And then on the outside is a membrane, and that holds in the enzyme mixture so that it doesn't disperse throughout the cell and ruin that cell.
And our analogy is it's the trash can of the cell because it gets rid of the waste throughout the cell.
All right, it's me again. I'm doing cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid that goes through a cell. It's mostly made of water, but it also has salts and organic materials in it. It's the thing that the cell needs to live. You know, just like you need water to live or you dehydrate and you could die, the cell needs cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is all over this cell, and it just flows through there. So microfilaments wave and get the cytoplasm flowing. Now, we represented it with the streamers, okay? And so the streamers are going around the room, so it kind of depicts cytoplasm moving around the cell. Now, I know that in Niobrara you have a goofy science teacher, so you won't mind me acting a little goofy. So let me show you really kind of how the cytoplasm flows in cytoplasmic streaming. It just flows, flows, flows around the entire room like this. This is cytoplasmic streaming. Oh yeah, see? That's just like your teacher, isn't it? Anyway, the analogy would be it's important. It surrounds all of these organelles and preserves them just like we need oxygen in this room to breathe. It's like the oxygen.
These are vacuoles, and they come in different shapes and sizes, and we have them dispersed all across the room.
They basically hold food and any other type of nutrients that the cell might need to survive.
But they also hold waste that might harm the cell.
Our analogy was that it's like a backpack because it holds on to things that the cell might need to survive.
This is an entire chloroplast. Its function is it absorbs sunlight and uses it along with water and carbon dioxide to make food for the plant.
So adding on to that, chloroplasts are basically the food producers of the cell, and they have membranes on the inside of it called thylakoids and tubules, and those basically all work together in helping make food for the cell. And chloroplasts are only found in plant cells and certain protists like algae, and chloroplasts are mainly circular, round, or disc-shaped.
Our analogy was chloroplast is like a kitchen because the kitchen makes food for the people and chloroplast makes food for the plant.
One thing I want to add, and this is for the sake of your teacher, I also teach physiology, and in physiology we're learning about proteins and how they actually fold and are made. So here is an example of a folded protein that gets made by the ribosome. And so we're in the process of going through the folding and learning that.
Thank you for visiting our cell.
From Pierce High to Niobrara, we just want to show you this is how you win Waterworld.
It allows things in and out of the cell.
Our analogy is that a mitochondria is like the wall of the school because, oh man.
You got it. One last thing. We just want to show you how we win Waterworld. Maybe, no, start over.